These are two dialogues that we often kind of drop by as we're talking about animations and workflow within the application and things like that. But I thought what I'd do today is just devote the whole session to that. As always, please feel free to interrupt me as I'm going on, and we'll have and then at the end, I don't think this is not going to take anywhere near 45 minutes. At the end, we'll have a free-for-all open question period for any questions go. So let me share my screen here. I think this is the one. Yeah, okay. So can you see my screen with two thumbnails here? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into this particular flow. Whoops, I didn't mean to. Or actually, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it through in view mode first. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how I did certain things in this view mode. Okay. So right now I'm on step number 1. Actually, can you just confirm you're seeing this okay?
Looks good.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Okay, so here's some things I want to point out. First of all, up here, I've got a little narrative dialogue in a little black area of the screen up here. This presentation acquaints the viewer with the step details and settings dialogue. These are not text objects within Flow like this one here is here, the drop-in training step details and settings. You don't get a whole lot of formatting up here, but this is a place where you can put your narrative if you want this to be a self-service kind of flow. Okay. Also down here, note that I've got some step names here. These are arbitrary names. Turns out I've got 5 steps in this presentation, and I just arbitrarily name them S01 through S05. Okay, it's kind of a flow best practice to keep these names short so that the text of the name doesn't start interacting or interfering with the data. That's the mainstream part of each step. Okay, so those are 2 things I wanted to point out. Let's see, other things. This is just my normal 3D cube when I'm first bringing in a swarm. Then I go up to step number 2, and you've seen this before if you've been to any of these sessions. This is the 50-country scatter plot, life expectancy by time, by country, 8,000 data points, about 50 countries, 160 years, and you do the math, it's about 8,000 data points. Okay, nothing particularly new on that one. On this one here, this is a scatter plot of just Europe. You've seen this in some presentations before too, probably. Now this step here, okay, I put a lot of animations into this step. So I'm going to go back and play it for you again. Might be a bit jumpy on Zoom, but you're going to see this object here, this swarm is going to shoot off to the right. There's going to be a globe that's going to come into the scene. There's going to be a swarm that's going to swoop in from the left with 10,000 cities on it. And I think maybe there's something else going on, but I'm not sure. Let's see, 10,000 cities is coming in, the globe and the swarm. Okay, so there's lots of animations going on in this step. And kind of the secret for this animation resides in part of it resides in the step details dialogue. So I'm going to come back and show you how I did that. And then the next step, not much going on here. I've put the dots on the map with the size of the dot proportional to the city population. There are 10,000 cities on this map. And the flow default choropleth is colorizing the countries by population. And in this particular map, the way I'm colorizing the countries, the only 2 countries in the world that really qualify for the deep red color are China and India, because they are so much larger than all the other countries. I think the United States is the 3rd most populous country in the world, and it comes up kind of this orangish color. And other large countries like Brazil come up orange too. So Anyway, that's the step. And there's also on this step, just for the heck of it, I put in a button. And this button is labeled optional, go to step S2. So S2 is this one here. I'm going to click this button and you'll see we're going to go back to step S2. Okay. So the reason I put that on there is because that's also controlled through the step details dialog. So that's it. A few actions, some animations, some miscellaneous things going on in this flow just to illustrate the step details and settings. So now I'm going to come back into this flow and I'm going to go into edit mode so I can show you what I've done. Any questions so far, by the way? Okay. Okay, so I'm loading up this flow. Okay. Okay, so 5 steps, that's what we're expecting. Okay. I could go through those same steps in the editor mode. It would behave the same way, but I'm not going to do that, I don't think. Rather, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to get down to the step details and show you some things that you can do in this particular dialog. So this is a very easy dialog. There is one section of the dialog for each step. So I've got 5 sections in this dialog. This is where you enter your name for the step. And by default, Flow calls it step X. And I overrode that and I numbered these each sequentially S0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't have to be sequentially numbered. They don't even have to be numbers. They can be whatever you want them to be. I find for my style, it just seems like I can navigate them best if I just give them a number. And sometimes I do it in a way where I have families of steps. Like this might be S11, S12, and S13. Then when I go to a brand new topic, I call it S21, S22. So it's arbitrary. But the reason you have to do it is if you're going to be using actions such as the go to step action, this is how you designate what the step is that you're going to be going to. So we never say go to step 3 because step 3 might be the step in this version of the presentation. But if I insert a couple steps after step 2, this is no longer going to be step 3. It's going to be step 5. But this name that I've given it, S03, will survive that kind of activity. So this is a unique name for the step. Okay, so that's how you give step names in case you're referencing them in go-to actions. Okay. Another thing you can do here is this is not a session on actions and buttons. We did that last week. So I haven't put any specific actions on these steps, but I have but if you were to put an action that's to be executed when coming into the step, this is where it goes. You would click here and then you would specify what is the action that you want to have happen when you come into this step. And that means you will have already created action 1, action 2, action 3, as many actions as you wanted to. Okay. So I didn't do that for this particular demo. Okay. Let's see. Okay, this particular dialog is also where you can move steps around. So if I wanted to change the positions of step 3 and step 2, I could grab this handle here and pull step 3 up and put it in step 2's position, and then change the position that way. I'm not going to do that in this case because it just might mess up, the kind of the flow of my flow here. But this is where you can reorder steps also. This is also where you come to delete steps. So if I wanted to get rid of this step 5, it's just not worth it having it in my presentation. If I click this delete button and then confirm, I'll be able to get rid of that step. So high-level step maintenance goes on in the step detail section. There's also a few checkboxes here. Show the step overlays while in the editor. That is what causes this area here to show up when you're in the editor. And if you enter something into it in the editor, it will also show up when you're running in presentation mode, in view mode. Okay. So this is where you have to set that up. So this area is active. Okay. This is a quick checkbox that says, hey, show the step overlays when you're in meetings. Also, sometimes you might want to show them in view mode, but not in meetings for whatever reason. Camera position preview. This is an interesting checkbox. We're going to have a session on this, I think, in 4 or 5 sessions from now. If you ever, the reason I use this is every once in a while I get into a position where I've done so much manipulation with my camera that I've kind of lost track of where I am. You know, things seem to be 180 degrees out of phase or something. And it turns out if you ever get yourself in a position where you just lost track of where your camera is, you can click this box. And if you go into the story creator mode, you can actually see where your camera is set. I might, at the end of this session, I might come back and just demo that for you. But I usually have it turned off when I'm doing regular training or development. But when I get in trouble and I just can't figure out where my camera is set, and I don't want to reset it to 0, I invoke this and it kind of gets me out. It's useful for getting me out of a jam. Okay. You also can set this timeline color here. This is the railroad track that we see when we're in present mode. That can be colorized also. So there's not a whole lot of things you can do here in this step details dialog, but the things that you can do are pretty important in terms of animations and actions and the like. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention, when I'm going from step 2 to step 3, I program that here to take 8 seconds. So let's just do that. I'm going to go to step 2 here. Now I'm going to transit to step 3, and this is the fancy transit where this went off the top of the page, I think. Let's see. Oh, actually, whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, this 8 means going from step 3 to step 4. So I was 1 step off there. This is going out of step 3. This is the time duration. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so here's that swarm is flying off the screen. The map is coming out from the depths, and the new swarm, the 10,000 city swarm, is surrounding the globe. So all that happened as part of the animation. Just to review the animation real quick, for those of you who might not be aware of exactly how that's done, a flow animation always takes each object from where it is on the previous step to where it is on the current step, and it will animate that action. So to achieve this kind of animation that I got here, and a tricky thing about that, a counterintuitive thing about that is, even if the object is invisible on the prior step, its starting position can be set, and you can cause animation to happen going into the subsequent step. Okay, so to figure out what's going on here, the easy part was this one here. Let's see, this swarm I had going off the top right of the screen. The way I made that happen was I made it visible on the next step, but I made it visible in a tiny way off to the upper right, off screen actually. So to see how I did that, let's just take a look at the definition of this swarm. Here on step 4. This is the swarm with the life expectancy. So I'm coming down here. This is swarm number 1. I'm coming down here to 1.5 to the right. So that's way up here. And I'm putting it up 1.5. I'm putting it up 1.5 and out to the right 1.5. So it's way off the right-hand side of the screen. And that's why when I make a transition from this step 3 to step 4, this is going to take off. It's going to get smaller, and it's going to go way off screen. You can see it mostly going off screen rather than getting smaller before it gets off the screen. Okay. So that is how I handled that. And if I wanted that action to be visible, I needed to have that swarm be visible on the step. So that's why the swarm here is technically visible, but it's off screen. So for all practical purposes, it's invisible. So, you know, that's a mouthful of explanation, but if you work with these animations, you'll understand what I'm saying there. Okay, let's take a look at the map. So the map on this step looks like this. It's a globe of the Earth. Okay. If I go back and I look at how I've defined the map on the prior step, okay, I can go back here and even though the map is basically invisible, I can still see its attributes. And this is map 1 on step 3. And what I've got here is I've got it scaled at 0.01, which means it's 100th the size of what it is on this that it would normally be. So, you know, the map is here, but you can't even see it because it's so small. Okay. So now when I animate this, if we just look in here to see what the map is doing, we're going to see that the map is going to kind of come out of the background, and it's going to come into the foreground, and then it's going to get surrounded by these dots. Okay. Okay, the dots, I did the same thing. The definition of the dots on step 4 has a scale of 1, okay? And it's a random swarm in a cube of 1 by 1 by 1, okay? So now if I go back to step 3 to how I configured that, I'm just gonna click on step 3. It's invisible because I've clicked this little invisibility icon, but the scale is also 1/100th of what it would normally be. And it's to the left 1.5 meters, and it's up 1.5 meters. So it's way over, it's off to the upper left of the screen. So now if I play this and we're just going to watch up here and see the dots come in, that's because of the position that I put it on step 3 and the relative position it's going to in step 4. Okay, so here it comes into view on step 4. And it settles down and surrounds the globe. Okay, so there's a lot of animations going on that step, and part of the animation is caused by how I've configured these swarms on subsequent steps, and part of it is going on in what I've done here in the step details. The timing specifically I had to set in the step details. If I had kept this at the regular 2-second time interval, all this would have happened much faster, which maybe that's what you would have wanted to have happen. I don't know, but you know, I decided 8 seconds for dramatic reasons is the setting I wanted to put in here. So these animations oftentimes step details plus how you configure the objects in this timeline. Okay. Okay. The next thing I want to do here is, excuse the barking dog in the background. I just had a house guest arrived and the dog has decided to bark. Okay, first of all, any questions on anything having to do with step details or what I've discussed having to do with animations here? Okay.
Bill, can you tell us what are the actions that are available in there?
Yes. So if I go to action here, okay, this is where I would compose an action if I was creating an action. Okay. Or actually, you know what? I can get a step details. I think I can get at the actions here too. So if I say I want to add an action here, I get a drop down here. Oh, I guess I can't see it here. Okay. I will go, let me go to where I went before. I'm going to actions here. And I'm going to say, I'm going to create a new action. And my sub action here, this is my list of actions that I can do. And how we had a session, I think it was last week, where we talked about buttons and actions. You could go out on our website and find all these actions. Whoops, hang on there 1 second. Sorry, that was the target. I picked the wrong drop down there. Okay. Here are the actions here. You can delay, you can insert a time delay, you can hide an object, show an object, toggle between hide and show. You can make things rotate. You can go to steps, you can go to next step, previous step, and the like. There's about 15 actions that you can do. And we can add these kinds of action. We'll be adding different types of actions as time goes on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so yeah. So that's where you find the list of available actions. And some actions have to do with, like, let's say if you chose a hide object action, then you have to also specify an additional item, which object you want to hide. So I could hide this map if I wanted to via an action or whatever. Okay. So that is step details. And in doing that, I've also gotten in some words having to do with animations. So the other thing I wanted to cover in this session is settings. And I'm just going to go through these quickly. The kinds of settings you can do on a flow. First of all, you can lock a flow so nobody can revise it, and even you can't revise it until you unlock it. So we use this when we put a flow into production. You know, it's done, it's perfect, and we don't want anybody to change it. You can lock the flow by clicking this checkbox. This is probably one of the more interesting and controversial items. You can either have flow autosave your flow when you're in the flow editor. It'll come around and it'll save about every 30 to 45 seconds. You can have flow do that. It's perfectly good. Or you can disable that if you want to take control over exactly when your flow is saved. So I'm kind of old school, and I'm very used to editing Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, and me telling it when to save. You know, if I were of a younger generation, I probably wouldn't be as comfortable with that, and I'd probably have autosave on. I usually have autosave off. Now, the one thing I would recommend you do, if you're going to be going down a developmental path that's particularly adventuresome and you don't know where it's going to lead, you're just exploring stuff, I would definitely say turn autosave off while you're doing that, because you might get down into some area where you're just exploring things and you might not want flow to come along and automatically save at that point. If it does, we do have versioning now, so you can get back out of it, but you know, it's your choice. Okay, this is a checkbox, show scrollable timeline when on the laptop. So this scrollable timeline that was down here when I first took you through this flow, this is where you get that. This is where you set that if you want it to show up. So you can put names on your steps. And if you're debugging, or if you are corresponding with a colleague and you're referencing a flow in a 25-step flow, and you've given it a name, it makes it really, really convenient for doing that. You can turn that on while you're in the collaborative mode, and then when you go into production mode where people are just going to be viewing it, you could turn it off. I mean, it's an optional setting. And this is show the step names on the timeline, same kind of thing. Enable phone AR if you're going to be building AR videos. You know, this is a checkbox. Allow remix. This is an interesting one. So if you share a flow with somebody and you want to allow them to go on and modify their copy of it, you can say, okay, I'm going to allow remix. You know, I don't care if Joe takes my flow and if he adds a few steps to it. Now, there might be conditions where you don't want to allow remix. You want to share this with Joe, and you might even want him to make his own copy, but you don't want him to make a derivative work out of your flow. If you turn this off, he won't be able to do that. There are a few other settings here that are mostly oriented toward AR and VR. In VR especially, the concept of scale is important. And a lot of times the scale you use on a 2D screen might not be the same scale you want to use in VR. So there's a setting for that. If you're in AR, where you're making an AR video, we've kind of put in here a convenient way of specifying if you're dropping your data, you're going to just put your data on the top of your kitchen table or something. You know, we've got an arbitrary setting here that says, okay, this is the height offset from the floor for your tabletop. Okay? And that's settable. It's here, it's set at 0.5 meters, which would be kind of a low table, but that's what it's set at. And this is the center point height offset for a swarm. You know, kind of an arbitrary rule of thumb is if you set your swarm and you're in AR and you set that 1.3 meters off the ground, which is about 4 feet off the ground, that's going to be a pretty comfortable setting for when you're viewing your data. And if that's uncomfortable, you can set it. So there's some settings, there are various settings like that. Let me come back here. So that was this settings, okay? Other items in this 3-dot menu are your data sources. If you want to see all the data sources that are in your flow, I've got 3 of them here. This is a very convenient place to come in and see that, okay? If you want to check certain things about your environment, like the environment is my background here. My background, I use the classic Microsoft type blue lights. It's kind of a plain blue background with a little bit of shading on it. You know, I tend to be pretty classic in the way I do things, but you know, I often use that. But there are lots of other backgrounds you can use. A lot of people use these mountains at dusk background, and you know, there's all sorts of backgrounds you can use. You can even have your own custom background if you want. Let's see, show floor, the stabilizing grid, optimize aliasing for light colored backgrounds. I don't think I'll get into those. Those are AR, VR kinds of things. Quite a few customers create their own custom color scheme. You can create a color scheme, and to do it, you just click the create button, and then you can start adding colors. And you can give names to the colors, or you can navigate through a color wheel here to find the colors that you want to add to your own custom color scheme. A lot of our corporate customers have somewhere between 5 and 10 colors that they like to use in their presentations, so they'll put in their own custom color scheme. That's environment. Audio, if you wanted to record audio, this is the dialog on which you can do that. We do need to be MP3 files, but the audio is quite widely used, and it's a reliable component of what we do. Actions we talked about, and there's a whole prior video on that. Settings we went through. Okay, thumbnail. So, you know, my current thumbnail for this presentation, which is what I see when I'm in the Flow editor, I had set this. If I wanted to change it, let's say to this screen I'm on right now, all I would need to do is say take snapshot. And this, what I'm viewing here now, is what would become my new thumbnail. So set your thumbnail, position on whatever step you want your thumbnail to be, and then click take snapshot, and then that will become your new thumbnail. Save, that's if you just want to save the flow. Save as, if you want to save and give the flow a new name, you can do that. Brand new to our system is versioning. This has only been out for maybe a week and a half. It's pretty new. We're kind of early in having versioning, but it seems to be working well. And it's if you, for whatever reason, if you lose your version or you want to get back to a prior version, we have a way where you can progressively restore going backwards, whatever version that you need to get to. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's in each of these versions, but maybe the time frame at which the versioning happened, maybe that'll give you some good clues. But the important thing is we do have a way where you can get back in case you've overwritten something that you didn't really want to overwrite. So that's brand new to Flow. It's only about a week and a half old. I honestly don't know what delete does here. I guess it deletes the flow, but I've never once clicked this button because I'm scared I have no idea what happens when I delete something I'm right in the middle of. So, I'd much rather delete the flow when I'm viewing the thumbnail than deleting it when I'm right in the middle of it. So anyway, I'll let you guys find out what that does if you want. Console is an interesting one. If sometimes you can get yourself in a configuration where things aren't quite right. Maybe you've refreshed a CSV file and the column is not the same as it was when you set up a filter or something. But anyway, if you go into console here, whoops, where did that go? Okay, let me close this. Oops, let me close down my versioning here. Let's see. My versioning seems to be interfering with my console here. So let me go to something else. Let me go to data source. Now let me see if I can get to my console here. Okay, well, you know what? There's something not quite right here. What I'm expecting to pop up here is a console that shows potential errors. It's possible I don't have any errors in this flow, and therefore the console is not showing up. But I expect something to show up there. So this will be a follow-up study for me. Oh, here it is over here. Okay, I found it here. Okay, so console. Maybe it was showing up all the time and I just didn't notice it because it blended so well into the background. The console is if there are errors in your flow, those errors will show up in red or orange in this dialog. So in this particular flow, if I have any issues, they're not major, just see some yellow text here. But if there are major things in your flow where something's just broken or something, more often than not, you'll be able to get a good clue as to what it is by clicking the console button and coming over here. So not too widely used, but used when something's not quite right with your flow. And oftentimes, if you call us for support, sometimes we'll ask you to click the console and see what it's saying in there. There's usually some pretty good hints. Okay, and I think that's it. This is an important button, actually. A flow best practice is always have this clicked so you're in the advanced UI, okay? Now, right here, I'm in the simple UI. If I go to the advanced UI, I see additional things here. I see buttons. I see groups, lines. There's some things here that you have to be in the advanced UI to see. So a flow best practice is always when you create a new flow, actually there's two things we highly recommend. First of all, give it a meaningful name rather than the default, which is new flow with the date. Take 10 seconds and give it a meaningful name, and then take 2 more seconds and just click the advanced UI button. So you're seeing the advanced UI. So I do this, it's a reflex action built into my DNA now. Anytime I create a flow, the first 2 things I do is I give it a meaningful name and I click the simple UI or the advanced UI button. So that is found in this 3 dots, 3 dots menu. Okay, so that's about it. I've gone about 35 minutes, so which means we still got 10 minutes left, I think, or whatever. Any questions on any of this, or if there are no questions on any of this, any questions at all?
Hi, Bill. This is Hao. I actually have a question about this. If the best practice is to click advanced UI each time, is it possible to just set as a default, or at least have a setting to make that a default?
Yeah, actually, I'd have to ask Jason Marsh, our CEO, about that. Yeah, that same thought has occurred to me too. I'm not aware of any downside of doing it. I mean, for a new user, well, maybe they're not interested in buttons, groups, lines, and image 360. I think that's valid, but in my opinion, there are other things also that just make it a good practice to click it. I'll check that out, Hal. I think that's
Okay.
that's, why, if it's such a best practice, which it is, why not make it a default? Yeah, that's a good question. And it might have to do with wanting to preserve some future things that maybe we put in there that maybe we really would not want and especially new users to be exposed to.
Okay, I have another question about version, another question about remix. So on the versioning, how is that related to autosave, and how is versioning actually? Is it every time I click save, or every time it autosaves, it generates a version, or I actually have to, explicitly say I want to create a new version?
I think it's both. Like I have autosave turned off. Okay, I mean that's just the way I prefer to run. So whenever I save, I get a new version saved. So all these versions that you see are versions that I saved by clicking clicking the save button. Now, if you are running with autosave on, I think what shows up here in the versions, if you're running with autosave on and you click versions, what's going to show up in this list of versions is every time you had changed something and autosave came along and modified, and there was a change in the version. So, I think what autosave is doing, it's not saving a whole copy of your entire flow every time. Rather, it's just changing the deltas. So this is if you have autosave on, this is what you get back. And it's possible either with autosave on or like I run with autosave off. There've been times I've definitely wanted to get back to a prior version for whatever reason. So this gives me the capability of doing it. And it will give you, if you have autosave on, it would give you the ability to go looking through here and hopefully find your version.
Yeah, I think this is really useful, because especially for, I'm thinking about a scenario where students working on something and they mess up, and we can just there's a way to go back. How far back can you go?
You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I know I just started playing with this today, so I know I did not have a long history with this flow prior to today. I don't know. I could find that out. If Michael's still on the line, Michael, do you know how far versioning goes back? Okay, Michael's probably not. He's probably attending to his young one. So, good question. Now I'll find that out and shoot you an email.
Thank you. The last question is about remix, just the proper use case.
Hey, Bill, this is Michael. Sorry, I just thought I heard my name. Was there a specific question I could answer?
Yeah, Howard asked the question, hey, how many versions? How far back does versions go? And how many, what's the upper limit of versions? Do you have any idea what that is?
Good question. With you talking about the new functionality, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'll have to check with Tim.
Yeah, okay. So both Michael and I will be on this, Hal. We'll get an answer. It's probably a very large number though.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious, because even if you just saving delta, since this is there are a lot of objects that you could really take up a lot of space trying to save this. But I'm just wondering if there's a limitation on how deep the stack goes. About the remix, I'm trying to think. So the proper use case scenario, is it like if I want to do collaborative editing and I have a group of students editing the same flow, they need to, the first person create this flow needs to allow remix and share it with the other team members. And when they edit, they all edit the same flow. And then if I want to say, create a template or some kind of starter for everyone to start with, and have a little bit of a starting objects and a flow in there, I would create one and I disable or not allow remix, and then I force them to create a copy and edit that copy. Is that how you use this?
Well, I think some of that's right. We don't yet have a concept of multiple people working on the same flow at the same time to do authoring a flow. We do have a concept that if people are careful and they're sharing a flow and only one of them is editing it at a time, that we do have that concept in there that can be done. So I'm not sure what you had in mind, but the remix allows any editing at all to take place on the flow that somebody's copied from your directory.
Wait, when you say copy, so I just want to make sure when someone else is like, you created this one, if you share it with me and right now it's allow remix and I change something, does that change your copy or?
No.
Oh, okay. So that and really not. I mean, so if you don't allow remix, wouldn't I still be able to make a copy and edit that copy? Wouldn't that be the same thing?
You know, I
Not
don't
quite.
think-
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
correct
sorry
me, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but I think the remix makes, if you have remix off, a person cannot further edit that flow. Is that right?
If you have remix off, it means they can't save their own copy.
Yeah.
So if you think of all the featured flows are basically flows that myself and other people have made, but we turn on the remix button, and essentially that allows anyone to save their own copy. However, if you had, private data or something you did not want someone to create their own version of, then you would turn off the remix button. It's not a huge feature yet because we don't necessarily have like a public lister of flows. So besides sort of the featured page, but we'll have more in the future. But yeah, that's sort of the end functionality, if that makes sense.
Okay, so thank you, Michael. Now I understand. So basically, really not allowing remix or uncheck that allow remix. It's basically disable copy. So basically, you're saying that this is a rights management setting. If I don't allow remix, that means I want to protect my intellectual property, or for whatever reason, I want to protect it so nobody can make a copy out of it.
That's right. Yes, it's an additional level, even beyond sort of the share parameters, where you can technically have remix on, but if you don't share it with anyone, you can't make a copy anyways. But yeah, exactly.
But I can share a read only. Yeah, but I can share a read only copy, and the people can't, make their own version of it.
That's exactly right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Of course.
Let's see. Okay, and Stephen, Frank, Hal, Paolo, any other questions?
Hi, Bill. How you doing?
Hi, Frank. Good.
Hey, I'm not sure, the kind of a question out of left field here. I'm not sure if this is the correct venue to ask this, but I'll go ahead anyway. I'm looking to see if Flow Immersive would allow me building out a stock chart. So, like, for example, the stock Apple. If you were to go look at its stock chart, can you use Flow Immersive to mimic a Apple or any stock that you would typically see on a chart?
Oh, sure. If you had the data, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. If I were to,
Sure.
yeah, if I were to, like, I have a trading platform. I'm a trader, so I would want to. I have a specific need where I want to export the data off of a specific stock via CSV file, and then bring that into Flow Immersive.
Sure. Yeah. So this scatter plot that I'm showing here, these are life expectancy by European countries.
Mhm.
This could also be stock performance for Apple, Google, Amazon. There'll be kind of a timeline scatter plot. Could be done for stocks.
And I believe there is a featured flow called RIA, so it stands for Registered Investment Advisor. We had built a small prototype with stock portfolio performance, setting everything equal to like 1 or 0 rather, and then showing the percentage change during 2020. And so that's a good equivalence, but it's actually really easy. It's surprisingly easy to do in Google Sheets. I will, that's a good thing I can probably send out actually, just a sort of helpful tip. But if you just search for equals Google Finance, essentially you can have any Google Sheet pull back stock prices at daily intervals or all sorts of intervals for pretty much any stock. So there's actually quite a lot of easy tools. And then With Google Sheets, the nice benefit into Flow is that all you need to do is just hit the refresh button. You don't have to re-upload the CSV file.
Okay, yeah, great. Sounds very
Yes.
interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, so Frank, I just went out onto the featured flows and I'm loading in that research investment advisor flow here. So yeah, you can cruise through this flow and see what kinds of things resonate with you for stock performance. You might get some ideas here as to how they could be visualized. But all of these curves here are what we call 3D scatter plots. And they're all really great for comparing information across a timeline, in this case, several stocks.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Bill.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Michael, do you have any answers for unasked questions?
I wish I could show. I tried to bring something up, but I'm going to publish one pretty soon that I think is a really good example of how to use the data transformer in a really easy way. So anyways, a little precursor. Sorry, I was going to hopefully show it, but I'm getting tracked down by my toddler. So
Okay, we'll pick that up sometime.
yeah, you got it.
Okay, hey, well, great. Thanks everybody for attending this session, and we look forward to seeing you at future sessions. And feel free to come into our help center and browse prior recordings.
Yeah,
Thank you,
great.
Bill.
Take it easy. Have a
Thanks,
good rest.
Bill.
Have a good rest of the evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.